Well, here's the latest on the Nirav Modi scam, and I warn you, it's infuriating. The RBI governor, who deposed before the parliamentary panel yesterday, made some shocking comments, starting a fresh battle of who forgot to lock the stable doors with the finance ministry. According to our reporter, the RBI governor told the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance the following. PNB submitted incorrect compliance reports, so there was nothing we could do. The RBI doesn't have the powers to regulate PSU banks. The RBI cannot appoint and remove CMDs, and it's impossible to cover 1.16 lakh branches altogether and regulate all of them. The RBI has powers for bank supervision, but not for audits. To put this simply, viewers, this is like a security guard or a policeman saying that he couldn't stop the bank robber because someone was covering his eyes. Now, the Nirav Modi is no ordinary bank robber. He's a billionaire thief with friends in very high places who not only robbed our Punjab National Bank of 13,000 crore rupees, he's now on his way to join the league of Vijay Mallya and Lalit Modi in seeking political asylum in the UK. Now, the reason why I say our Punjab National Bank is because we pay for it with our tax money. And we are now paying for Nirav Modi's upscale, posh, extravagant, champagne-soaked lifestyle in London. And we don't just pay for Punjab National Bank, we pay for all PSU banks. That terrible one with a terrible customer service where the teller is playing solitaire on her computer, we pay for that one too. We are shareholders of these banks. So when they run into losses, our money is used to fund those losses. Just 3 days ago, we were told that losses of public sector banks have crossed a whopping 87,300 crore rupees this year. And according to the Mint, the government is putting finishing touches on a plan to pump, and I want to say this slowly, 2.11 trillion rupees into PSU banks to cover up those losses and just keep these banks alive. That's 1.3% of our GDP. So that's our money, and here we have the RBI governor, the finance ministry and the Central Vigilance Commission all passing the buck between themselves over who has to take responsibility for this colossal mess and this big blow they have dealt to the Indian economy. Now, we've been warned repeatedly by economists and former RBI governors about the sorry state of affairs in our public sector banks. Economic advisor Arvind Subramaniam has said, and he's the advisor to the government, he says recent events have suggested that public sector banks' internal controls are not strong enough. The question arises whether external controls in regulation and supervision by the regulator are strong enough. More importantly, former RBI Governor Y.V. Reddy has also said lately that taxpayers who have entrusted their money to the government-owned banks should be asking the government to explain why, as custodian of the money, you failed to prevent this fraud. That's an excellent idea, Mr. Reddy. In fact, tonight we are going to demand why. Why, after 5 whole months, Nirav Modi fled with our money and we have failed to nail the real culprit behind this colossal mess? Was it the finance ministry who was meant to be the custodian of our money? Was it the RBI, the banking regulator, who failed to do its primary job of regulating banking? Or was it Punjab National Bank, responsible for letting out 13,000 crore rupees from a bank that is worth 20,000 crore rupees? How could it be possible that only a branch level officer has been held responsible and nobody else in the bank knew anything about it? Of course, we want to bring Nirav Modi back and all that money back if it's not too late. But this perfect crime has created a blueprint for other such smooth operators who owe our banks a boatload of money. Get this, 29 people, only 29 people being pursued right now by the CBI and the ED in 15 different cases collectively owe the banks 40,000 crore rupees. 29 people, 40,000 crore rupees. Are we going to be satisfied with the silence of the finance ministry, the weak excuses of the RBI? Or like Mr. Y.V. Reddy suggested tonight, we the taxpayers who entrusted our money to the government-owned banks are going to ask the government to explain why. Why, as the custodian of our money, you failed to prevent this fraud? That's the question we're asking today. 5 months have passed since Nirav Modi fled this country. Why do we not have any answers? And why is it that nobody is willing to take responsibility or to plug the holes in our system? Joining me on the show today, Thomas Franco, General Secretary of the All India Bank Officers Confederation. We also have Amitabh Sinha for the BJP, Ashwini Rana, Vice President, National Organization of Bank Workers, Gaurav Vallabh is the spokesperson of the Congress, J.N. Gupta, Managing Director of the Stakeholders Empowerment Services, former ED of SEBI. And we also have A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director of the Business Standard. I welcome all of you to this conversation. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm going to start with Mr. J.N. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, thank you for joining us. If you could tell us, and Mr. Reddy, okay, we don't have his audio right now. I'm going to come back to him. Do we have A.K. Bhattacharya? Mr. Bhattacharya, if you can hear me, please, my first question to you is this. Y.V. Reddy suggests that we should demand answers from the government as to why it's not doing a better job in looking after our money. Do you agree with him?
Up to task ensuring that the Bank Regulation Act is amended adequately.
We seem to have a problem with an audio there. Thomas Franco, I apologize to my viewers there. We're having audio problems all around. I'll give my PCR a moment to fix that. In the meantime, Thomas Franco is in the studio with me. That makes it easier. Mr. Franco, is the RBI sort of skirting its responsibility here?
Definitely, RBI is skirting its responsibility. As Mirror now had brought out, when the beginning of this Nirav Modi loot was brought out, it was the RBI which has permitted that LOU in the banking system, which is not there in any other country. Now, after all this, now they have withdrawn that LOU scheme. So, RBI is primarily responsible, and RBI was also doing the audits. They have the powers to do the audit, and the RBI governor has the audacity to say that I do not have adequate powers, whereas they have powers under 10 different sections. They have different powers to control the banks, take action against the banks. Today they have put 11 banks under the prompt corrective action, from where all these powers came, and their own directors are there in the boards of the bank. So they have so much of powers, but in spite of that he is saying that I want more power. Power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts absolutely is some saying. And he wants more power, I don't know for what. He is not able to manage the economy. The NPA is rising. In the last 4 years, if we see, the NPA has been rising.
So the RBI has said RBI has powers of bank supervision but not audits. But the bill for the RBI actually specifies that it has to audit.
Definitely, under section 35A, they have absolute power to do the audits. And they are auditing all the big loans in the banks, which is a regular process. Only thing, over a period of time, they have reduced the number of employees, number of offices, because of which the supervision has gone down. So it is RBI which should take own up the responsibility, instead of saying that we don't have power, or saying that we do not have adequate power.
The RBI also saying that the bank submitted incorrect compliance reports. Now, that is a really weak argument. If the bank is lying to you as a regulator, you should be able to catch that, right?
Definitely. Then what action they have taken against the bank so far? If they have lied, they have powers to fine the banks. They have powers to intervene in the boards of the banks. They have powers to take action against the banks through their own auditors. But none of this has been done. Instead of that, you are just saying that they have not been reporting properly. What powers you have utilized to punish the people who have been responsible for this? So far, nobody has been punished.
Same question to Ashwini Rana, Vice President of the National Organization of Bank Workers. Mr. Rana, is it the RBI's responsibility, or in this case, as the Finance Ministry is on the board of directors of the bank, is it the Finance Minister's responsibility?
No, board is also responsible and liable. But RBI cannot run from their responsibility. They are the same responsibility as a regulator. Their nominee is there on the every board. So they cannot escape from their responsibility. How they can say that we have not received the proper. Every quarterly, all the transactions of this foreign exchange transactions are reported to the RBI. Whether they were sleeping, what their nominee was doing in the PNB board. So they cannot escape. They cannot run away from the responsibility. They cannot shift the responsibility to the others. All the board members are responsible, but same time RBI also is a responsible. He is asking for more powers. What more powers he required? He is having sufficient powers. He cannot become a owner. They are the regulator.
Yes.
They have to run as a regulator. They have to do as a regulator. They have to do their responsibility. He cannot be a owner. He wanted to be a owner of the banks. They wanted to decide who will be chairman, who will be director. He cannot do it. As per regulation, Banking Regulation Act, RBI Act, he is having some responsibilities and he has to do that.
Mr. Amitabh Sinha, it has been 5 months since Nirav Modi fled this country and we still don't have a fix on who was responsible. Even within Punjab National Bank, nobody in management has been held responsible. The RBI and the Finance Ministry are busy blaming each other. When will the citizens of India get justice?
Can you repeat? Because the line was not clear.
Okay. My question to you, Mr. Amitabh Sinha, is that 5 months after Nirav Modi left the country, we still don't know who is responsible for this scam. When will we get that answer?
Yeah. I was expecting that there will be somebody who has, some experience in from RBI also, because your panel most of the time is very, enlightening and very deep. So I was expecting that somebody from RBI, some RBI ex-director or joint director, director, somebody should be there so that they can also explain technically what exactly is lacking from the RBI side. Because the topic I was given to understand that Ujit Patel's statement that RBI also wants some extra powers to control the system. So number one. Number two, if there is nobody from the RBI, since I am not an expert of RBI rules, but yes, I can try to explain what exactly is happening in the system, especially in the banking system. So give me only 1 minute uninterrupted time. See, in this situation, when in 2009 and 2014, during UPA 2 regime, an open loot in a banking sector, and almost like 8,20,000 crore NPA. 8,20,000 crore NPA happened during that regime, and in that is particularly that industrial NPA was 6,20,000 crores. So that is unbelievable in throughout the world. It has not happened anywhere in the world. And that also very ironical and very like a surprise. The GDP was taking a dip during that period. The GDP of the Indian economy took almost a dip like 3.4% to 3%, like from 8 to 8.54% 2004. So that actually is directly showing how the loot has happened during Sonia Gandhi and Manmohan Singh's regime of 2009-2014. Because of that, and when Nirav Modi scam happened,
yes,
it came to know it was now clear that RBI tried to check that system in their Swift arrangement, Swift account arrangement, where only one handler was required. During the UPA government, Chidambaram had intervened and allowed PNB and other banks to handle a Swift account through several hands. That was basically, and this is a very small technical issue which was not came into light until Nirav Modi fraud happened. So now the government is taking all possible measures to ensure that such type of fraud should not happen and must not happen. Number one. Number two, see this so entire system, that banking system, is so huge, and what RBI has at this present juncture in their hand, they have some limited power. Number one. Number two,
Mr. Sinha, that's absolutely not true that the RBI has limited powers. And if you feel that, then review the RBI Act.
See, IBC that bankruptcy, insolvency and bankruptcy code, that is also very important step taken by the government, and RBI and government they are making all out efforts to ensure that NPAs and bad loans should not happen, and banking fraud cannot and should not happen again in the future. But what has happened in the past,
Yes.
you cannot clear the entire slate with a magic wand. That is the
No,
problem.
so
That
actually
is the
nobody is
unfortunate
asking you,
situation of
Mr.
this country.
Amitabh Sinha, to
So that is-
clear the slate with a magic wand. In fact, I want the government to focus on what happened in the past and tell us where it went wrong so that we can ensure it never happens again. Now, you are telling me that the government is doing everything in its power to make sure this never happens again. How will you do it if there has been no inquiry into how this went wrong to begin with?
Yes.
Whose fault was it?
I am telling
Please tell me, who was responsible?
What exactly is IBC? What exactly is IPC? IBC is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The stern, laws have been made so that nobody can fool around, and if a person becomes defaulter within 3 defaults of his expected time, the severe punitive action should be
That's
taken.
not the
and
solution.
entire,
I want to know who was
property must be
responsible. Why
attached
has there
within
been no
delay.
prosecution of anybody in PNB or RBI or in the finance ministry for
See,
this
in
scam? Who are we holding
in Indian
responsible?
Law, in Indian legal system, see, I am as a lawyer, let me explain. See, when you have no laws to prevent that, it cannot be retrospective. So it can be only prospective.
Fraud is
so that is the problem. So government is trying hard.
Mr. Amitabh Sinha, 420 is a section in our IPC.
Okay.
So cheating is illegal in this country.
There was
Someone
a time
cheated.
required.
No,
there was a
someone
time
cheated.
required. So in earlier days, what was there? See, just a minute. In earlier days, what was there? That somebody who is doing some fraud, he should be given proper chance to show that he is not a fraud, and that period was generally misused. So now that through IBC code, that provision has been completely erased.
Answer this question, Mr. Sinha. I am reading Mr. Subramani Swamy, who is a member of Parliament BJP, tweeted this just last night. And this is what he has said. Nirav Modi left India in early 2017. That was because despite the Department of Revenue personnel raid on Nirav Modi, there was no follow-up action by the Revenue Department of the Ministry of Finance. Only after December 17, 2017, the collapse of the PNB fraud action was taken. By then, the bird had long flown out. So he is suggesting here that there were people in the government who were slack enough to allow this to happen. All I'm asking is, why don't we have an inquiry to find out who these people were?
I am sorry, Faye. This is unjustified. I am sorry if you will try to, you are not trying. I am sorry, but if your, intentions, which people can understand, that you are trying to say that that was a connivance between government and the Nirav Modi. I am sorry. This is a very unfortunate state of a statement. This is not correct.
Okay, that's not correct. All right. I'm saying, and I'm going to ask the rest of my guests to also come in. Do we have Mr. J.N. Gupta mic'd up? May I speak with him, please? Okay. Mr. J.N. Gupta. Now, obviously, Mr. Amitabh Sinha will accuse me of being biased against the government. I'm reading out Mr. Subramani Swamy's tweet. He says, Nirav Modi left India in 2017. That was because despite Revenue Department personnel raid on Nirav Modi, there was no follow-up action by the Revenue Department of the Ministry of Finance. Now, I am not pointing a finger at the entire government, but obviously there were certain bureaucrats or officers of members of the government who need to be questioned. Do you believe we are questioning enough?
I will say very simply that we in our country, we all work in isolation. There is no coordination between different agencies, because I would say that if there was a raid at Nirav Modi's place, there were some cases, that itself should be alarming all the bankers, everybody, and to be very, very cautious with the person. Now, once the raid was done, was any caution level increased at PNB? I think no. If I was a banker, I have been a banker myself, the moment I used to come to know that something is wrong with somebody, I would put all screws on the tight and see every information that is available so as to see what is going to be the future of the account. So to me it happens that only when a case comes through the press, there is a lot of hue and cry, then every agency starts tightening the noose, as it happened in the Nirav Modi case. Now ED is there, CBI is there, RBI is there, PNB is there, Ministry is there, everybody is trying. But when it was there, everybody thought it is a case of isolation, it is related to some raid, why we should be bothered. Now, this show is about the RBI. I was reading RBI governors, whatever newspaper has happened. First, I have my sympathy with Mr. Urjit Patel for the simple reason, the mess that he has got, it is a baggage that he has carried from the past.
Yes.
But he cannot absolve himself all the thing on the pretext that he doesn't have power. You don't have to have power for each and everything. Show me one instance where he has written to the ministry that I want to remove chairman of bank A or executive director of bank B, and government has not done it. So he has not acted. The second thing I would say, the RBI is still living in a 1935 and 1949. I have been arguing time and again that it is the time RBI should sit up and see what are their regulation. 1949 regulation is a patchwork, and it is, you know, from 1949 to this time the entire world has changed, but Banking Regulation Act has not changed.
Yes.
I have been talking that SBI, there are 4 different acts which govern banks. Why there should be 4 different acts? What RBI has done to harmonize that? Nothing. RBI keeps on issuing circular without examining it. I will give one simple example. The LOU. The LOU circular was clubbed, that bank guarantees, LCs and LOUs. Now, in my senses, I will never club them together, because bank guarantees and LCs are established international payment mechanisms which are governed by ICC. LOU was a new animal. There was a different risk. I will say that, look at SEBI. When SEBI was introducing foreign exchange contracts in the stock exchanges, there was a technical committee which went into all possible risk of the new products. So why can't RBI do this?
Mr. Gupta, forgive me for interrupting you, but this is getting a little technical for my audience. So I'm going to ask simpler questions.
Faye,
did the RBI fail to prevent the fraud? But one second. Mr. Gupta, did the RBI fail to prevent this fraud?
Okay, I would say yes.
Okay.
They failed to prevent the fraud because, one, when they introduced LOU, they did not introduce the proper checkup mechanism. Then there was no follow-up based on the experience of LOU being used. Third, they did not put in proper security system.
Yes.
Then they never asked the banks, what is your system?
Yes.
Come back to us.
Right. My next question. Now, these PSU banks, which is now turning into a bottomless pit of money that we keep pouring money into, and these loss-making banks are being run so badly, these PSU banks are owned by the taxpayer. It is the Finance Ministry's responsibility to represent the taxpayer and look after these banks on our behalf. Did the Finance Ministry do a good enough job of making sure that we, as shareholders of these banks, are being looked after and our money is not being lost?
Is this question to me?
Yes, it is, Mr. Gupta.
Okay, so I would say yes, but we always say in retrospect everybody is intelligent, because when Finance Ministry is putting its representative, the first thing that the Finance Ministry has to ask, what type of person you are putting as representative in the bank. And most of the time you will find that you have got chartered accountants or somebody here and there who acts most of the time as a broker for his own business. Second thing is that if you find the attendance record, most of the people do not attend the meeting. And third, since I am not being a privy to the meeting, but most of the people come back to you saying that most of the people do not use the opportunity to open up their mouth because they do not understand. And that is the problem, that if you put a person who is not capable of taking a decision as a board member of a bank, then this is what is expected.
there is some problem here.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for making it very clear. Mr. Gupta says that both the RBI and the Finance Ministry could have or should have done a better job of preventing this on various levels. In retrospect, we know what went wrong. But why aren't we holding anybody responsible? Can Mr. Abhinandan Sinha hear me now? Mr. Sinha, can you hear me? Did you hear the arguments made by Mr. J.N. Gupta?
Yes.
Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Sinha?
Okay. See, First of all, we should try to understand the handicaps and the positions and powers of the government. See, in finance ministry, the system was like that because it was run and ruled by previous laws which were not very much comfortable as far as the implementation and harsh steps for those people who are doing business with a fraudulent manner. And during that regime of 2009-2014, it had happened in such a manner that everybody it was open. The banking sector was open for everybody. So the system actually was evaluated first, and then a proper regulation was made. And now it is being made. And then what I was trying to discuss earlier, that IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, that has been adopted. So before that, the entire process was different, and the civil laws were applicable.
Okay.
And there was a process, just a minute, there was a process where you cannot take action against erring fraudulent people who were trying to cheat the bank. But now you can. So now the regulations are there. So you try to understand what were the problems, and the regulations, first they should be properly examined, that regulations are foolproof, then it is implemented, and now this government has implemented. So the intentions are very clear that we will not allow fraudulent frauds with public money. So that is basically the expectations.
You will not allow fraud with public money anymore.
From the public to the government.
You will not allow fraud with public money anymore. From here onwards, what is gone is already gone.
Just try. No. IBS. See, so for that the entire proceeding as there, Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi, they will face the trials in wherever they are. Vijay Mallya is facing, and the time will come when he will also be brought back to India, and the money will be recovered, whatever is possible. And number two, Mr. Nirav Modi will also be properly through legal process what exactly was available at that time.
Very quickly, rebuttal. Thomas Franco, is it true?
Made prospective. It is
okay. Thomas Franco, is it true that we did not have the regulations up until now, that the previous government was running a mess of a system, and that is why this happened?
See, after 4 years in power, you cannot keep blaming the past government. In the last 4 years,
come on, 4 years.
NPA,
you were sleeping since
figures
70
which
years.
quoted
You
by
were
Mr.
sleeping
Sinha was
since
wrong.
70 years. And
the NPA has steadily increased in the last 4 years. And in the last 4 years alone, 3,50,269 crores have been written off. And you are not even willing to disclose the name of the people for whom the loan is written off. That is a bigger loan.
The important thing that we have implemented, what you people have done, you have looted the country.
Mr. Sinha, you have to listen to me. Thomas Franco, who was speaking just now, is the General Secretary of the All India Bank Officers Confederation. And he is the Secretary General of the All India Public Sector Central Government Officers Confederation.
He should not always be accusatory. He should try to understand. But he is talking like a Congress spokesperson. See why he is saying
I do have a Congress spokesperson in reserve who has not spoken up till now. I'll give the Congress spokesperson an opportunity
to listen to the other point of view also.
Why he is raising this 4 years? He should appreciate that at least some step has been taken. He is not able to understand.
No, but quite frankly, as a taxpayer and a shareholder, some step has been taken at least is not good enough for me either. We should have done more, we should have done earlier. But since you said Congress spokesperson, Gaurav Vallabh has been waiting to respond to you.
In this regime, whatever is possible.
See,
okay, all right, I apologize.
Just a minute. Yes. That is your expectation. That is your expectation. But the government has clear intentions to prevent and ensure that no fraud can
all right, Mr. Sinha, first Mr. Thomas Franco of the All India Bank Officers Confederation will finish his point, and then the Congress spokesperson will speak. Thomas Franco, please.
The new law which we are talking about, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, if you see the results of the cases settled, 60% haircut, 82% haircuts, and we are hailing that we have been able to recover 30%, 40%, which is actually a loot. We are writing off the loans of the bigger corporates who have looted the country. That is not really helping the banking system. Similarly, the profits of the banks, the operating profit in the last 4 years has been 7,50,000 crores. And it is only because of the increase in NPA and writing off of 3,50,269 crores in just 4 years, the banks are shown in the
solution.
negative.
What exactly
So
is the solution?
these steps which have been taken in the last 4 years is also not adequate. It is high time we have a review of that
Yes.
actions.
Well, he is asking for a review.
your
No,
agenda
one
is very
second.
clear.
You know what?
I'm sorry,
You know what?
your
Amitabh
agenda
Sinha.
is very clear. You
No,
just
Amitabh
give me the
Sinha,
solution.
It is not up to Mr. Thomas Franco to offer solutions. The government has economic advisors. The government has a finance ministry. The government has a Niti Aayog. It is for these people to come up with solutions. But Gaurav Vallabh has waited very patiently for half an hour to be allowed to speak. Gaurav Vallabh, go ahead. Your response to Amitabh Sinha.
See,
Can I
Faye,
speak?
in management, we always used to say that if somebody asks for more power, he should accept more responsibility also. And I was telling that this government deliberately they puts a dent to the all reputed constitutional authorities. Reserve Bank dent in last 19 months, as per the report, Reserve Bank is not able to count the notes which was submitted to them. So after demonetization, they were not able to count the votes. When the parliamentary committee had asked this question,
Because,
governor
my
was not
dear
able
friend,
to answer.
you people
And second
have
point, very precise.
printed
Arre
on
bhaiya,
a Congress
when I was
currency.
speaking,
No, let
are
me
you
finish
in this
speaking. No,
very
Amitabh
uncivilized
Sinha,
manner?
this is not fair.
Please
Amitabh
maintain
Sinha,
some civilized-
one
My
second,
dear
one second.
friend,
Amitabh Sinha, let him
Congress
finish,
regime-
please. No.
Congress
Are you-
regime
Amitabh Sinha, this
has
is not fair.
Faye,
One second,
how
one
come
second.
you call
Amitabh
these
Sinha, let
type
him,
of
no, one second. Don't get
No,
personal.
sir,
Let him
Judge,
finish
Faye,
speaking.
You should interfere.
No, I
I'm
don't
sorry,
interfere.
Faye.
I don't
I'm sorry.
interrupt any
So
of my guests, Mr. Sinha.
Why he is raising those issues which can
I am-
deviate your debate?
then
Why
let
he
him
is
speak.
raising
I
such
will
issues?
moderate
let
the
him
debate,
speak.
Mr. Sinha.
Entire
But let him
country
finish
is
making
aware.
his point, please. Gaurav Vallabh, please continue. And you can rebut him when he's done. But we want to hear him out first. Mr. Vallabh, please continue.
So what I mean to convey that first, without taking any responsibility, Reserve Bank is asking powers which is not justified, and I will give you 3 reasons for that. First, every bank board is having Reserve Bank representative. What the hell they were doing there? What is their responsibility? Second question, that the Nirav Modi scam, Faye, is not a credit scam. This gentleman from BJP doesn't understand. This is a operational risk scam. After Basel compliance, banks are supposed to manage 3 varieties of risk: market risk, credit risk, and operational risk. So this is a people, process, and systems failure, and that had happened after a continuous advisory by Reserve Bank. But government is trying to put a dent, and I will give you the logic behind that. That after every LOU, there is a process of reconciliation, and Reserve Bank is supposed to do reconciliation. But unfortunately, Faye, the Department of Banking Supervision, which we call DBS, which is supposed to do the
So, Gaurav
supervisory
Vallabh,
work
here's a
of
question.
banking industry, that DBS was not having the head.
May I
The
ask a
deputy
very
governor
small-
was
Gaurav
not
Vallabh,
trusted for
Gaurav
last
Vallabh, here's
9
my
months.
rebuttal. Gaurav Vallabh, one
He's
second.
talking
Here's my
about
rebuttal to
IBC,
you. One
but
second,
he's
one second,
not
one second.
IBC.
All right.
That is an operational risk failure, which he is
Okay.
not aware of.
Gaurav
And
Vallabh,
third
Gaurav
very
Vallabh,
small
is it
point,
not
Faye,
true?
before-
Is it
before
not true?
concluding-
What?
Yes. Is it not true, Gaurav Vallabh, that we had a considerable level of NPAs during the UPA regime, and it was constantly being covered up, and because Raghuram Rajan decided that he will change the way banks are reporting these NPAs, that's why the number went up so heavily. Is that not true?
I am asking Faye, do you believe in private sector banks? Nobody
no,
can.
don't answer my
nobody
question
can
with a
impact them.
question.
In last 4 years, I am answering.
answer
In
a
last
direct
4
question.
years, Faye, their NPAs had increased by 38%. He is not aware of that. Today, when we left the power, the NPAs as per Reserve Bank of India data was 2 lakh crore. Today it is 9 lakh crore for the entire industry. And mind it,
Okay, all right,
Faye,
all right.
how NPAs are recognized. When something is overdue for 90 days, it is classified as NPA. So now when industry is
No,
not
I don't think
growing,
that is true.
corporate
Something
India is
overdue for
struggling,
90
the
days is
deposits
considered
and
as an
credits
NPA?
are coming down. The growth rate in deposits and credit are not growing in banking industry. So that is the reason NPA in last 4
Alright,
years
alright,
had raised
okay,
from 2
okay,
lakh crore to 9
okay.
lakh crore, and now they are saying
Let me bring in the rest of my panel, please. One second. All right, okay. All right. I want to now bring in the rest of my panel again, Mr. Mr. Ashwini Rana. Here's the question. Is it a problem of one government or another government,
Yes.
or is it that the RBI is simply not doing its job right now?
RBI is not doing the right job right now. It is correct. There is no second thought. But it differs from government to government. Earlier UPA government, there was a mess in the banking. But I want to ask Mr. Franco, their nominees were also on the boards. Whether any nominee on the boards of the Officer Association or Workmen Union, they have raised this issue that government, they were party to the
Yes.
whatever board were doing, they are also responsible. They cannot run away from their responsibility. Today they are blaming. At least government has brought some new IBC, just like reforms. Regulations were there, but proper regulations were not implemented. And for that, banks are having a shortage of force. We cannot do everything. And this government, everything they are putting on the bank employees. So bank employees having a limited workforce, they have to do so many things. For that, more workforce is also required in the banking.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
See, the boards, as per the government's rule, the Nationalization Act and the SBI Act provides for appointing an officer director and employee director in the boards of the bank. And in the last 3 years, there has been no appointment, and as on date, in all the 20 public sector banks, there is not even one employee director or officer director. When they were in the board, they had been playing that role of watchdog role, and they had been opposing certain proposals when it was not in the interest of the country or not in the interest of the bank. It is unfortunate that the government and the RBI, who are responsible for appointing these people, have not bothered, and I have actually filed a case in the Delhi High Court, and now the Delhi High Court has given a direction that as quick as possible they should get a fresh list and appoint.
Right. So
This
let
is the
me
reality.
just refocus this debate and ask
No,
the
what for-
question
what for?
again. One second. Okay, all right. I understand. 1 second. I understand between bank workers and bank officers there is a separate side battle going on here. But let me refocus this question of this debate. There has been a considerable leakage in our banking system. Money has leaked out of the banking system like a chunni. We've lost money in the last several years, and it is not just this government, the previous government. Has happened over a period of time. But the Nirav Modi scam was egg in the face of the RBI, the finance ministry, and anybody else who was tasked with the job of keeping our money safe. All I'm asking for right now is an inquiry into every officer, every RBI person who audited, everybody on the board, anybody who looked at the documents and pretended like nothing was happening for the several years in which this scam of LOUs was continuing. But basically, he was taking guarantees from one bank and borrowing money from another bank, and this happened for several years.
Faye, let me
when will
answer
we
your
have
question.
that inquiry
Faye,
is my question.
Faye,
Okay, Amitabh Sinha, go ahead. When will we
Faye,
have that inquiry?
let me answer your question. Yes. Yeah. See, I had tried to explain, but most probably I couldn't explain it in a proper manner so that you can understand it. See, the entire banking laws, those were actually governed by civil laws of India, and because of the nature and the laxity in the civil laws, it had happened, and now the system has changed, and now the action can be more prompt. But civil law are also relaxed, but you cannot become scot-free. See, he might have, flown from the Indian territory, but he will be brought back.
Mr.
Just
Amitabh
have
Sinha.
patience. Like
No,
Vijay
I'm not
Mallya is
asking
also,
you. No, see, this is the
day by
point.
day-
This is the point. No, stop
Just a
1
minute,
second.
let me.
Stop.
But the laws, the civil
I'm
laws
not
are
asking you to
the
bring
civil
back
laws in
Nirav
India.
Modi. No, wait. I'm not asking you to bring back Nirav Modi, which I'm sure the government is working very hard to do. I have no doubt about it. He did not do this alone. I'm saying that there were people inside of Punjab National Bank who helped him. There were people inside of the RBI who helped him. There were people on the board of directors of Punjab National Bank who helped him. There were people, perhaps officers in the finance ministry who helped him. Where is the inquiry which will catch these people? 6 months have gone and we don't have a single one of these names. Where is the accountability in these three organizations? One second. I first want to ask Mr. J.N. Gupta. I want to ask Mr. J.N. Gupta. Don't you believe that there should be such an inquiry?
The person who should be arrested for that is Mr. Chidambaram, because Mr.
So then do
Chidambaram
the
actually
inquiry.
instructed
Where is the
Raghuram
inquiry
Rajan
that
and
indicts
Raghuram
Mr.
Rajan
Chidambaram?
extended this.
Where is the report that indicts Mr. Chidambaram?
It's already there. You know,
Where? Who's investigating?
People who have done actually wrongful thing, they have already been suspended.
Nobody
and
has
they are behind
been
bars.
no.
But Mr. Chidambaram and Mr.
How many arrests have been made other than that one
yes,
bank officer?
four
And I
people are
refuse to
arrested.
believe it's a branch level scam. One second, Mr. J.N. Gupta.
Four officers
All right,
are
all right.
behind
Both of
bars,
you
number
stop
one.
for a
Number two,
second.
the inquiry is
No,
going on.
J.N.
But
Gupta,
you must
one
try to
second.
understand
Stop
why
screaming.
that
Politicians,
happened.
this is
In
not about you.
2011, in 2011,
All right, I want to hear Mr. Gupta, please.
Nirav Modi.
PCR, please manage that. Okay, Mr. Gupta, here's my question. Do you not agree that the stakeholders here in this case, who are the citizens of this country, deserve an inquiry which will tell us and which will find out who allowed Nirav Modi to get away from inside the Finance Ministry, the RBI and Punjab National Bank?
So I would say the first, it is an unfortunate situation that in our country, anybody who does wrong is rarely punished. Now I would say in this particular case, the first thing should start from the circular which RBI issued allowing LOU. One should go to RTI and find out what were the background notes on which basis the LOUs were allowed and what type of risks were there. First. Secondly, in the entire thing, you are very right, RBI is there, PNB is there, many other banks are there, auditors are there, ministry is there, board members are there. Now we have to have a holistic inquiry and find out who are the black sheep, because today the situation is that entire 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs bank employees are black sheep, which they are not. I believe that 99% of them are honest, but because of 1% people who are wrong in the system, entire 100% block is taken as a black sheep. The first thing should be, I recall in your channel only, one of the board member of Allahabad Bank had said that he had written the letter to RBI Deputy Governor. Now I want to know what happened to that letter. Where was the complaint handled and what was the final disposal of that complaint? Today in this entire PNB case, you have filed a CBI inquiry against Usha Anand Subramaniam. Where are others? Was she the only person who did anything wrong, if at all? I don't know whether she is wrong or not. But I would say that unless until you take in the entire circle, start to end, that everybody who was involved and examine the conduct and make it transparent and fast. If you do it for 30 years or 3 years, then it loses control because the public will forget. The other thing that I was listening to the fight between Congress and BJP, it is a matter of fact that what happened till IBC court came or RBI came up heavily, the patient was getting treatment or rather wrong treatment in a home. Now suddenly they were brought in a hospital in ICU, then only the public came to know about the NPA. It can always be found by statistics in whose period NPA happened and who was responsible. That is not the question of debate today. The question of debate today is whether there was a failure at RBI, I would say yes. Whether there was a failure at PNB, yes. Whether the board failed, yes. Whether the ministry failed, yes. And many stakeholders would have raised question. I would ask you to find out that RBI nominee, what is the attendance record of them in the board meetings? What happens? RBI nominee is there, so the board will not start the meeting because RBI nominee has not come. And when RBI nominee comes, let us finish it off fast because RBI nominee has to go back to his office. So all this thing happens. So why we have system? It is, I would say it is a fraud, or rather it is a farce. That have a system where the people have time to play the role hand to them.
Absolutely. And again, another yes or no question, Mr. J.N. Gupta. Do you believe that the current investigations that are underway in the Nirav Modi case, because one thing is bringing Nirav Modi back, but the current investigations that are on, do you think they are sufficient to get to the bottom of this?
I would really not know, because I do not know what are the investigation happening. But if you see the track record of investigations happening in this country, you always have a doubt that what is, because you start with the agenda and come up with the solution. So I hope that presently there is no agenda. The agenda is only to find the truth, and hopefully they will come out, because I have no clue what the investigation happening, so I will not be able to say anything.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up on this note here, because Mr. J.N. Gupta has said it very, very clearly that there have been failures in various organizations. There have been failures in the finance ministry. The finance ministry is on the board of directors. It appoints the managing director. It appoints the people who run the banks, because it's looking after our money. That's our money. The RBI is supposed to audit. The RBI is supposed to have a nominee member on the board. The RBI is supposed to keep the money safe. It is now behaving like a blind security guard who turns around after all the money has been taken and says, I didn't see anything. And of course, the management of Punjab National Bank. The bank is worth 20,000 crore rupees. 13,000 crore rupees has been stolen. And you want us to believe that it was a branch level officer who managed this entire fraud completely on his own. That's a total and utter lie. The RBI governor, Mr. Urjit Patel, must take more responsibility. You can't turn around and say, I was not able to keep your money safe because I didn't have powers. Did you realize that now, Mr. Governor, that you didn't have powers? How often have you written to the finance ministry and said, I need an increase of powers because I'm not able to do this job? After the horses have bolted, there is this entire conversation of who forgot to lock the stable doors. And whatever may be said right now, all we are asking for is this. 6 months after Nirav Modi fled, why isn't there a clear, precise, independent investigation to find out where the failures were? Who was on the board from the RBI? Who was the nominee on the board from the finance ministry? Who within the Punjab National Bank knew this was happening and looked the other way? Why don't we have more accountability? And who's conducting this investigation? The people of India have lost 13,000 crore rupees. They deserve accountability and they deserve answers. And if you're going to assure us that you will never let this happen again, how will you do it if you don't know what happened to begin with? If you don't know where the leaks are, how will you plug them? So there is the conversation about whether this was UPA or NDA, that government, this government is totally irrelevant and completely a distraction at this point. We don't care which government it was. We want to find out who screwed up. Which of the officers looked the other way? Who put a signature on the books without checking the documents? Who checked the documents and found out there was a problem but did nothing about it and did not report it? Who might have benefited from the friendship of this extremely wealthy and influential man? Find those people. That is your job. And when you've done your job, then we can have a conversation about everything else. In the meantime, the people of India have lost our money and nobody is giving us answers. Thanks for watching.